Thank you for showing up. Let's start by you speaking a little bit about, like, just introduce yourself however you wish, who you are, what you do, what you offer, and most important, what is your intention and calling in this life?
Okay, well, yeah. So my name is, I call myself ESO, ESO L. Okay, ESO. That word is rooted. The root meaning for ESO is internal, the inner world. So L just means teacher. Okay, so basically a teacher of internal arts. Now, I guess you could say you could call myself a spiritual cultivation coach. I run an online weekend temple. I do this full time. I from the Bahamas, currently live in Freeport, Grand Bahama. That's where I was born and raised. I do kind of get together with people on one-on-ones. I don't necessarily do anything big here at the moment. But just kind of putting out the word for the correct energy cultivation teachings. And all that means is meditation has become severely watered down to human public opinion, and it's kind of cliche if you ask me. So there's a particular state of breathing, something that must be activated in order to meditate properly, as left by the ancient masters, I guess you could say. So the gist of my mission is to help with human potential, because human beings was meant to go through a process of consciousness accretion. We weren't meant to die unconsciously, not have a choice, and just to be recycled in what they would call samsara or the incarnation wheel, which is a real thing. So everything about this is just unveiling what's been hidden to us, and to understand more of, bring the concept of spiritual immortality to an actual experiential experience, and what the step-by-step process is to get to that point, basically. All right.
Amazing. What would be your biggest challenge, let's say, looking back on your life since you started this journey? You can speak on like how old you are now, when did you start the cultivation journey, spiritual journey, evolution journey, however you want to call it. And what were your, like, biggest challenges in terms of some unconscious patterns that you turned into awareness, and then maybe some addictions, because there's a lot of talk about addictions in fasting community and detox community, and then also shadow work, anything that comes.
Okay, I think I could say, when I say this, this is probably a collective problem, because you see the big hurdles is, the addiction to food, and also we have lust, right? Sex. So, it's not like we was raised in no temple or in some type of kung fu family like some of the Shaolin monks, So being raised on Wendy's and watching porn from 9 years old don't really it's not really so the hurdle was seated in us from childhood, man. It was like it's so rooted in us, because the first 7 years of your life is like, that's what really programs the human body, So then you don't really live as a soul, you live as kind of this spiritual AI that just kind of living based upon this program, the way your technology been coded, really, So it's the same thing. I did, there was a point where I was watching porn, right? That was from young, though, like from 14, 15, but it was encouraged. It was like, all of my uncles and cousins and brethren through the island, how much gals you could get. It was a normal thing, the dope boys was the most popular dudes on the island. So it's so this is like what I went through. Specifically, I feel like all of us kind of go through it, and the big hurdle too for men, because, you know, men and women have different obstacles. Where women, their body is more yang. They say that a woman's body is actually more suitable for cultivation, but the problem is her body is yang, but her mind is more yin. So she has more issues with the emotional mind, you see? And then men, our bodies are yin, but our mind is more yang. So, but the issue we have is sexual desire. So it's like, and this can go back and forth. Of course, everyone is different, but we're talking about the majority, right? Where men can get past, like, it's hard for us to get past the first phase, right? Lust, sexual desire. Where women, they don't have that much of a problem getting past the first phase, but the second part, the psychological part, the emotional attachments, you know, they crave relationships more. Women make society run, you know, like all of the social events, everything is based on women here, you know. Men, on the other hand, we're very different beings, because we're much more detached from the earth, if you ask me. A man could lay down and think all day, you know. he's much more cerebral. So, you know, I can say I treaded the same roadblocks that pretty much every man has to deal with, especially here on Earth, since Earth been severely hijacked. You know, at one point it wasn't quite like this, right? There's a lot of stories of how it got like this, but the human genetic template has been damaged. So now even if you listen to Christianity, right? Are you from the Bahamas? It's a Christian nation. They always talk about the flesh. The flesh will lead you astray, and the flesh got corrupted. And that just means that the body, the genetic template, got perverted. So our signals from the Tao, from source, it's by the time it hits our brains, it's saying, okay, time to fuck, you know, time to eat. You know, but yeah, so, you know, yes, definitely food addiction, starch addiction, starches, man, boy. Yeah, you know, I think, the starch addiction is the real one. All the other ones are baby when it comes to the other foods, you see? So,
and salt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Salt, sodium chloride. But I do want to say, brother, even in the midst of having, this depends on how you see it, because this type of wisdom I'm about to share is not really understood in the spiritual community, because we do like to kind of put the walk or the path into like these very rigid boxes, you know. And you know, for example, like, okay, when you learn a cultivation technique, right? A lot of these cultivation techniques come from lineages, right? Lineages of masters, families that have held the tradition, and they perfected it for some time, right? Then you have some other lineages that are, they're not traditional, but you can say that they've optimized certain processes, whereas traditional lineages, it would take a much longer time. You see, so there's usually a traditional time span for how long something takes for a human being to activate a particular ability. Now, there are some lineages of, and this depends on if the master attained the Tao, because not all masters was at that level where they were representatives of the Tao. So if he was a representative of the Tao, God, which you could say achieved enlightenment, then each Buddha, based upon their teachings and what they gave to the disciples, they gave them specific techniques that were optimized and perfected by them, because they attained many subtle bodies, and they, you know, they in the other realms where they could see more than us. And these Buddhas, or you could say sacred masters, they understand the human body technology on a whole nother level. You know, like a doctor or someone that fasts here in this realm has no clue compared to them. So what they do when they give these cultivation techniques to their disciples, there's encrypted holographic transmissions that are sent, okay? And it's downloaded immediately into your biological device, your human body. So when you do these techniques consistently every day, even if you eat every day, even if you ain't fruitarian, even if, you know, but the fact that you're doing these techniques and they've been optimized, the transmissions from the master will constantly be, it's like an anime. They'll send transmissions and it will accelerate a process that may have taken you many decades or lifetimes if you try to achieve it just on your own, or, you know, let me go out in the woods and fast to myself. Because, you know, you got some brothers, that's especially men, but you have some women too, that where there's times where the ego can become so densified to where you believe that you don't need a teacher, which again is debatable, but you have to understand that there are beings that are further along in the process than you.
Oh, yeah.
And they've optimized techniques where even the breatharian journey, there's some, you know, where the Bigu fasting, where it's not like juice fasting, where you know how to shift the Qi and you gather Qi and all of that. So that's not a fast per se, like juice fasted or a urine fast, or what you see, it's where you shift to another energy source. And traditionally, this was, you know, you would have to give up meat and then become vegetarian and vegan and liquids. That's the traditional route. But, you know, I'm a disciple of a lineage that they've streamlined the process. So if even in cases of an emergency, there's called intentional bigu, where even if you ain't that good at cultivating Qi, they show you some ways to gather to kind of, you know, for emergency. But there's different levels to what we call bigu fasting. You see, there's higher levels to it. You know, the one level is, okay, if your internal respiration hasn't been activated, and I guess we'll get to that topic, they'll show you how to gather it in a specific way with certain movements, you know, from nature. All right. But I only saying all of this is to challenge people, you know, to think, okay, you know, because sometimes you see when we talk about like living on the light, and, you know, that's kind of a popular topic, you know. The one issue with it is we believe that everyone can get there based on like just only fasting. And what we see many times is that even if someone was on liquids only, there's some people I know of that have been on liquids for 6 months to almost a year and a half, and they still binged after a while. And I mean, binged hard, bro, like hard. So it wasn't sustainable, you know. So then it can cause food disorders, you know. So not to say that, you know, I encourage people to go whatever route they feel resonates with their soul, their psyche. However, you know, there are techniques and stuff that passed on by lineages and masters that have been optimized, because the whole reason for yoga, breath work, fasting was for the activation of a particular type of breathing that was that's called embryonic breath. That's actually the only goal of body cultivation techniques. You know, yeah.
When you speak about the one master having a traditional lineage and then another having the same one but streamlined, cultivated. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you seen the anime My Hero Academia?
No.
No? All right. They have a concept. It's called all for one. No, one for all. And everyone in the anime has a superpower, and this superpower is that one person gathers energy and their own, let's say, you know, like fire bending, and all of your life you're practicing fire bending, And then at the end, you pick a disciple and you give him your chunk of the DNA with your level of cultivation, and you pass it on to him, and then he gets all the stuff that you built directly, as if like this, and then he cultivates it further. At the end of his life, he kind of passes on the torch. So I think it's where I
You
think it's
got
where
it.
yeah, so you get it, right? So I think this is where we are going as a species, right? That we're taking on everything that the previous generation took decades to accomplish, and now we're gonna take it as if it's a floppy disk, just insert it, and that's our new baseline that we're now building on. I don't think that's I can see where your point is, saying like, oh, I can definitely see some teachers of the tradition saying, no, no, you can't go this, you can't be this quick with it. You have to go
Yes.
this route. But I just feel that this is a natural progression in any evolution of anything. So I think that's the way to go.
You know what? That's perfect that you, see, I didn't even watch this stuff, right?
Oh, you
It's
should
just my
then, yeah.
yeah, I gotta you gotta type out the name of that anime to me. You know, I'd love to watch that because that's really my personal experience now, being under my current Shifu and Grandmaster and attaining and they pass on transmissions which would naturally take a time sometimes for high wisdom root students, 5 to 6 years. For low wisdom root, people that are a bit more not as sensitive, could take up to 30 years plus. But you can achieve certain abilities and attainments within just a matter of a few weeks, you know? And it's similar to it's actually damn near the same to what you said. So it's like they pass on the torch of that encrypted holographic transmission. And it's also based upon your virtue accumulation. So they don't just give it to someone that, you know, okay, you're doing Qi Gong. It's not only because you're doing Qi Gong. It's based upon your virtue accumulation, your character. The more you cultivate your energy, but at the same time, accumulate virtue, higher beings will help you. They will help you. And it's an obvious help. It's not like a subtle help. Yeah. Like, you know, from personal experience. So it's so that there's the saying I like, that wisdom is built in isolation, right? You cultivating your chi, you get merging into the emptiness, right? To gather the innate chi. And then, but character is built in the public. So the only way you can accumulate virtue is through others. So what I didn't realize, you know, when I started teaching about cultivation back in 2018, all right, of course, wasn't really good at it, right? Still getting better. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And I just kept on getting corrected. I kept on finding teachers, kept on, you know, but I was putting myself out there, and to someone else, you put yourself out there prematurely. So I would be broke creating PowerPoints to present to people about just cultivation, right? So somehow the money would come, right? And I never stopped. I didn't go and find a regular job. You know, I lost my job in America, not for anything I did, you know, didn't get the work visa, had to come back to the island. The island is particularly slow economically. It makes sense why I put myself here. You know, the economic challenge made me have to continue to walk in my path, you know? So I didn't realize that while I was working on trying to learn how to cultivate and merge and all of that, that I was also accumulating virtue by inspiring people to cultivate their energy, and at the same time to, like, I didn't know that this is called the true great work. Well, because most people's lives, they're just functioning on a program. You know, when they awaken to this type of knowledge, they can transcend specific programs and awaken to their destiny of liberation and choice. So just to spark that in a human being, and for a human being to appreciate the fact that he was the inspiration, that means that that appreciation I receive from that human being is transmissions that are sent to me even more. So then I get more gong.
That's the real food.
Yes. So I just was doing it just because it was a natural thing to do. I didn't know that this also was a cultivation of virtue. Because most people, a lot of people think, well, let me just go cultivate my chi, let me isolate myself. There are moments like that. Like most of my time is spent alone, but I'm very good with people. So just as I spend time alone, don't mean I can't connect to people. But some brothers and sisters, they may get so high in their head where they just kind of, you know, they're not relatable, you know? So they don't accumulate a lot of virtue, which then really delays the process of getting help from higher beings. So that was a big thing for me. And even the program that I'm in currently, to go from level 1 straight to level 5, which I was able to do because there's 5 levels, like, you know, they allow students that have high wisdom root to, you know, if you accumulate a lot of virtue, the Grand Master picks you in the spiritual realm. He would pick you, right? And I was picked, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, all right, yes, you see. And then, yeah, but it was based upon, did you accumulate a lot of virtue? And that's what I was doing both simultaneously. You see? So yeah, man.
Amazing. I'm gonna send you, and for everyone else, it's called My Hero Academia. And don't get fooled. It might seem like a kids show, but a lot of anime seems like a kids show to the Western audience and all this, so don't be fooled. Yeah, so much of this resonates with the virtue, like you say, like, and because we are able to be with ourselves alone so much is why we are connected to ourselves so much, and then we can recognize ourselves in everyone else, and that is the Tao. And
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, man. You know, and yeah, I just pause for a sec because I make sure, you know, you talk too, and you know, I don't like to be the, you know, and you know, brother, it's you know, it's beautiful too. You know, I know I can enjoy watching that anime, you know, because yeah, and one thing about meditation, because I was actually teaching to my niece, you know, and a few others. My niece, like 20 years old, but yo, man, she on it, you know. But is the concept, okay, so meditation, like, well, what is, how to meditate? Yes, you sit still, you just be, but what I want people to understand is that there's a reason for body cultivation techniques, things like yoga, breathwork techniques, from yoga, kundalini yoga, pranayama, Nei Gong, Qi Gong, Nei Dan, you know. Now, the funny thing is, because, you know, I teach Nei Gong, right? So I actually may have a retreat coming up in March here on the island. And the most difficult practices, all right, that like the yoga asanas, the horse dances, the most difficult body cultivation techniques are actually the lowest level of the path. And that's what people may not understand, because the lowest level is the hardest, because you working to kind of prep your body in a sense. But the funny thing is, you're only prepping it to get to the high level, simple, easy techniques of stillness. You see? Now, there's an argument where if someone incarnated with a lot of primordial spirit, which is not a lot of human, you know, it's not like, not everyone is born with specific abilities. I mean, we all have abilities, but not everyone born with the awareness and actually have these abilities in an experiential sense. So some very rare souls do incarnate with a lot of primordial spirit, where they don't really have to do, you know, a lot of the yoga asanas and or Nei Gong. I don't do yoga, but I do the Nei Gong and all that. You know, but for the majority of us, and that's why I got to keep it with majority. You know, some people would hear that and be like, that's me. Like, nah, no, just, you know, calm down. You know, I'm not saying, yeah, because I don't like to say those things, because if someone is lazy and they don't want to do it, then that they will think that, oh yeah, well, that's me. That's why. No, don't make that assumption. These beings remember their past lives. They have multiple bodies. They, you know, so they remember a lot, you know. But for majority of us, we incarnate with karmic sediments, yin sediments, and it needs to be purified. So we don't have, the primordial spirit isn't really flowing through us, and it's not condensed and it's not gathered. So for the vast amount of human beings, including myself, this is why I'm doing all this damn work, right? Is that our chi energy, or our primordial spirit, is dispersed. It's dissipated. This is why when we die, all right, we don't remember. We're recycled. We go into another womb, because at the moment of death, because the soul or energy in the body is dispersed and not consolidated and gathered, it just disperses into the earth. You don't remember. So there are high-level beings that manage the reincarnation wheel. And they do it because instead of you dying and being annihilated and no longer having your identity, these high-level compassionate beings have put together, you could say, some type of technological system, a matrix, to hope, in hopes that maybe he will get at some point in a life. So it isn't only the one end with draconians and Anunnaki, where they siphon off us as food sources, but there are other beings that actually do manage the process to so that we don't just annihilate the ego and no longer exist and go into stardust. Because without compassion from these higher beings, we actually wouldn't be here talking today. You know.
Yeah, we have to have a choice. We have to have a choice.
Yes. So we are recycled, but the reason that happens, so the whole goal of, okay, the most people on earth are stuck in religious thinking, which actually ain't all that wrong. It's just been twisted by the Vatican, you see, and the parasitic elite, or there's so many names to these parasitic entities, man. You know, I wouldn't even bring up the name. But what they did was they distorted and altered the teachings. Now, Jesus, who represents, I guess you could say, a Buddha, Yeshua, who attained the Tao, original Christian teachings, hence the Gnostics, the Cathars that was killed off in the Inquisition, right, by Catholicism, right? Because Catholicism, they was the demons that going and, hey, all right, let's go Anunnaki running this shit now, you know? So, yeah, so they killed off the Cathars, or they had to go into hiding places. So original Yeshua Christian teachings, or any Buddha, any master, with the virtue accumulation, with being a highly moral person, because that's what yoga is about. And any form of teachings, you had to live a highly moral life. Chastity, you had, you know, but the transmissions was cut off for cultivation. So most people are not doing spiritual practice or cultivation techniques like in anime. What they doing instead is just prayer and just kind of trying to be a good person in whatever version they believe that to be. All right. So when Yeshua, when he said, to get to the Father, you have to come through me, it has nothing to do with worship me. What it meant was, what it means when you get in a lineage under a master, he is your representative of the Tao. He sends the transmissions and signals of the Tao, you see, to you. So it's just like, for example, like, you know, I live in a big home here, and we have Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi, when the Wi-Fi is trying to extend to the other side of the home, when you get to the other side, it's pretty far. So we need boosters, booster signals. So that booster signal that's put in the part of the home helps to then emit out that transmission to the other part of the house. So Buddhas, masters, Yeshua or Grandmaster, who, they are booster signals for the Tao for us, because our genetic template, our pineal gland, the brain, these things are receivers with feedback mechanisms. So because that, what happens is we have a very weak signal. So the transmissions they send, because it became very difficult to become enlightened on earth without the help of higher beings, you see? So the transmissions they send boosters. So when in religious thinking, when they believe they need a middleman, that's true. Some people think, oh no, that's actually true. Most of us do need help, and these representatives of the Tao have optimized cultivation techniques, like you said in the anime, where they send the encryptions and program, and it's inserted directly into your biological device. So then you don't have to start from scratch trying to be breatharian, live in the bush, and and then it's like everything in vain, and you frustrated, and it'll take you so many fucking lifetimes. So there's a misconception with religious thinking. Religious thinking is correct as a start off. Once okay, I don't worship them. They give me the techniques. They send emissions almost as a parent, as a brother, as a friend, to hold your hand. Just to hold your hand. And when they say God helps those who helps themselves. So the more you do the cultivation techniques, the more you pass on the cultivation techniques, you accumulate virtue, the more gong transmissions you get from the heavens. You see? It's so, yes, religious thinking is correct, but they miss out on a spiritual practice. But then, now let's take it to the ones that cut off religious thinking completely. So I don't need no middleman. I'm a god. So let me, and mind you now, there are some that incarnated with enough to probably have to say that, but we talking about the majority of us, bro. So the problem is then, let me go out in the woods. Let me try do it on my own. Let me try to look up some cultivation techniques on YouTube, try to I ain't gonna pay this nigga. I just gonna let me go be an orphan and cultivate on my own. That's a big pandemic right now that's going on, because people are they don't understand that for the high level of cultivation techniques, there also needs to be some level of protection, because, and I'll get to what I mean by that, but just sticking to the topic. So you see, now we have one end where I don't need no middleman. I'm a god. Let me just go cultivate, but don't accumulate virtue. Don't accumulate virtue. Not paying homage in respect to higher beings that could send transmissions to you to speed it up. They just believe that I am the best slice of cake or pie on the planet, and then that's when the ego can densify, and so you see where it can be a split at times with a young, especially young people, or when I say young, someone are just getting into the esoteric arts. A young person could be 60 and he's still just getting into it. So someone that's young in the mind to the esoteric arts, they don't understand it. And when they read things that kind of boost their ego to say, you're a god, you did this, you did that, and then they start to kind of dismiss God in a sense, or Tao, or any absolute, which does exist. There are laws, So my goal and my message is, let's bring both together, okay? Yes, do I have a middleman? Yes, I do, but it's not the way that the Vatican taught Christians today, all right? It's not that way. He's helping me so that I could help myself. I am a god in training, I can say. Let me say that, in training, and I need help. I need help. That's the essence of humility, brother. That's what will get you far. That's it right there. You could breathe and do all these techniques till the cows come home, man. but without that, they're not going to take you further. They're not. So,
you're
of
not gonna
course,
be low enough for the flow to you.
no, man, you ain't gonna convert much Jing into Qi, because I take a very loving nature as well. You see? So, yeah, you know what I mean? And what people hear about it, but it's one way to read it than to actually experience it. So,
Mm.
like, the goal now, going back, is the belly on Buddha isn't only representing like full of chi or whatever, or mental emptiness, right? Because Zen Buddhism also got the transmissions for Zen Buddhism basically, it got hijacked as well, or is forgotten, because the part of the spiritual cultivation, what people forgot is that you also got pregnant. Both men and women, well, we know women get pregnant, but men also get pregnant. Now, we're not talking about obviously the same type of procreation that everyone knows. This is why human sacrifice was a symbolic representation for the giving up of your human sexuality for a life of chastity. All right. Now, I'm not saying, some, okay, they become completely celibate. It is mostly that type of life. Now, that's the first thing I was told. Like, you could have sex, just monitor it. But at first, don't have sex to lay the foundation. I'm like, okay, right, lay the foundation. Some just don't have sex. Some, they still do tantra to circulate in the meridians and bodies, but the tantra thing is a bit misleading because it's not necessarily gonna help you to build that spirit body. Yeah, that's just what I was told. But the goal is a pregnancy. And how do you get pregnant? When you activate, all right, what's called the embryonic breath. It's in the books. I mean, it's not like I'm saying anything. It's out there. Montauk Chi spoke about it, but we just bringing it to more of a down-to-earth level. You see? Now, remember when I said that all cultivation techniques is meant to activate the embryonic breathing. What is the embryonic breathing? Embryonic breath, if you ever read about it, it's an internal respiration that you did when you was inside your mother's womb. You didn't breathe through the lungs. Okay. You didn't breathe in air, right? It was a pumping motion in the abdomen that from the umbilical cord to the placenta, that's how you breathed and circulated the energy. It was retained in your vessel. Okay. When you came out your mother's womb and the umbilical cord was cut, what took place, you started to breathe externally. So that's when external respiration took place. And after a while, as you grew and into a young teen and into puberty, a young adult, your dantians became dispersed. They started, and that's a natural process of a human being, actually now, where even the lower dantian becomes like a cloud-like structure and it disperses to almost where it's still there, but it's not really like, you don't feel it, It's you need to coalesce it and consolidate it when you're cultivating energy. But so here's the thing, when the Bible says that you have to be like a child. So that represents a particular type of internal embryo breathing. Monks and yogis, regardless of tradition, whether it was, Chinese, India, going back to Kemet, they knew that all the yoga, all the pranayama, all these breathing techniques were only meant to activate the internal embryo breathing. It don't matter which culture you was in, because that breathing is not dependent upon the inhale, exhale through the nose and mouth. Okay? It's internal. It's a pumping sensation from the abdomen, and then it activates the pineal. And what that does is you gather more energy. And you're not inhaling and then blowing it out. Inhale, blow it out, and it's not retained. It's not captured. So in order for you to get pregnant, you first needed to build a container to retain the energy, activate the internal embryo breathing. Now you were ready for true meditation. Without that, you were just sitting taking a break. basically. Yeah. You know, they say that your meditation would go in vain in this life if you did not activate the embryonic breath. And then what that came with, you know, now your Dantian is, you know, even Nei Gong is a bit, you know, with sinking the Qi and what the Shaolin monks did, that's more of a body skill cultivation, right? Opening the body's meridians more for combat, for power, kung fu, but for spiritual enlightenment, it was the embryonic breath that was very subtle. Okay, so now when you got pregnant, you then would learn how to nurse it, all right, how to mature it, and this is what they would call the yang shen. Your shen, your mind, because now you're breathing internally, which is you don't really have to do anything, right? It's you know, because I have it on, right? You don't have to do shit. You don't have to worry about inhale, exhale like that. It just runs. So now, as you nurture it and you sit in still meditation, it's an automatic process. This is what they mean by do nothing. But you got to activate this first to do nothing properly. So it's like you gotta put an effort first for the effortless thing to then build that embryo or that baby. And you know, so then you would meditate and get into the emptiness, and it would just grow. Your innate Qi, your Qi would grow and grow and grow. And then what monks and high level, Yang Shen was also considered to be a high achievement, okay, amongst for human beings. All right, it's not the highest achievement, but it's pretty high for a human being. That's like an animal getting a human body, you know. So that's pretty big to the animal, you know. So it's like with us, like we're animal human mix, you know. This shit got messed up from the invasion, whatever, you know, if you listen to any of them people online. And but there's a body in here when you gather and consolidate that energy that's been dispersed and dissipated, it then is another suitable vehicle to transfer your psyche and consciousness into. And you can spawn it from the top of the head, and you can begin to mature it to become a spiritual immortal. Okay? And anyone interested in that type of training, you could DM me and I can pass you on to, you know, my teacher, you know, and you can learn it through Zoom. Actually, you don't even have to like fly nowhere. He Master Lee is teaching through Zoom, and he doesn't speak a lick of English. He has a translator, luckily, you know. So it's the first time these cultivation teachings have been put into they're bringing it to the West now because it got banned in China. So they're gaining. So what they're doing is they want to create a huge revolution and build momentum in the West to bring it back to China. You see? So that's why I'm talking about it, because it's also virtual accumulation, because we also want to build schools as well. So the goal essentially was also the emergence of the Yang Shen. So now, if you nurtured it and matured it in this life, you could choose. You have a choice. But if you don't cultivate, if you don't meditate and have that embryo breathing activated and meditate and gather as much as you could, then when you die, your energy is just dispersed. And you basically go back to whatever it is, you know. It's even worse if you lived a very bad life, like if you know, was a rapist or, you know, or alcoholic plus touching little girls and all that, man, you could go back to being a damn animal, you see? Because it's very animalistic traits, you see? Yeah, so just so people understand, what you do does matter to your life. You have to live a moral life. You cannot just think you could do breathing techniques and cultivate. Like, you have to purify your ways. All right? And I'm saying right now, boy, don't try to be cultivating Qi and still trying to watch porn and shit, you know? You know, don't do what I did, bro. I was doing that shit, bro. Yeah, man, it was fucking bad, dog. Like, that's why. So, you know, and that's why I speak about it. I mean, hey, you know, you expose yourself, ain't no one could expose you. You feel me?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and to be real, so you can see, look, man, all of us could hop on this, you know? And the anime that comes from high level beings because they want to give you clues. You see? Yes.
Oh, so many things. Oh, let me retrace. Let me retrace.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the first? The first thing is also in My Hero Academia, before he gets the DNA transmission, he needs to clear out like a huge beach of all kinds of rubbish. So like tires, old refrigerators, and it's like he tells him you need to build a strong enough body so that when I transmit the energy doesn't tear your limbs off.
Hence, just to say, that was the reason for I Ching Jing, what I teach in some Nei Gong, where some of the Shaolin monks would have iron bodies, where it's a skill that I have where I could sink the chi and stretch my tissues. It's called separate the flesh from the bone. And the chi mobilizes in your fascia and connective tissues, and it opens the channels with internal pressure. So I could every day, that's like my workout, right? That's like me going to the gym. Like I can work out and do the breath like the Shaolin monk. And what it does is you working to stretch your tissues from the inside out with your yang chi. And it was only considered to be a warming up phase, a prep, you see, so that the higher level techniques will work efficiently. Even the whole thing with the microcosmic orbit, that was just so, your pineal will work at least somewhat okay. So when the Daoist was like, all right, at least you have some microcosmic orbit and some chi gathered, we could work with you. You know what I mean? Like that. So it's the same like with the show. You see? Like it's one, gathering rubbish, cultivating virtue, and then doing the cultivation techniques to prepare to receive transmissions. Because if your pineal ain't functioning right, and I'm trying to send these transmissions into you, then it may come off as distorted frequencies. It actually might hurt you. You see? It might. So no, we got to clear you up first, So yeah, like that's why I say like anime actually is, besides some of it, they, adding a bit of fantasy and cartoon, but for the majority of it, it's actual real life for what we call spirituality. And I know some people, like if you look at the hippie movement, they think it's just this thing where you're floating around like a butterfly and, oh yes, we're the fundamental nature. And, and it's like, no one wants structure. We have already arrived, No, the true spiritual teachings actually had some type of linear structure to it, you see, and attainments as well. Yes, we know the fundamental nature, but what about having the other bodies, different technologies to really explore creation? Why not? Why just, all right, I see I'm the Tao, I'm a good person. Let me just be here and just be human. Let me just be here, which is fine. But it's like, no, man, like you reminded me of some lineages where they would not teach you any form of chi cultivation, not how to store chi in the dantian, until you showed for 10 years that you was a fucking a good citizen, like you had to do good deeds for like 10 years plus, accumulate virtue, so yeah. And the funny thing is, like I say, what is the highest virtue when you inspire human beings to this? You see? Some element of it is, okay, let me go give $1 to the homeless person and let me do this. That's good. But what about the everlasting change? What if you inspired one young man or young woman to take it upon themselves for something like this? You know what it is, bro? If I taught thousands of people and one of them became a Buddha, what if I didn't even become a Buddha, right? Let's say I didn't achieve it in this life. Guess what? don't you think that Buddha be like, all right, I got you, ESO. I got you, bro. So either way, it's all good. And that sacred mission, all them transmissions you get. That's why if you get famous, it ain't about being famous. But if you have the right mindset and don't care about being famous, you can accumulate a lot of virtue being known. You see? So you see, we taking things that's usually like, oh, I don't care about fame and all that, which I don't. But I don't take away from the fact that the more resources I have, the more known I am, the more I could spread this message, accumulate virtue, and do what's right. You see? So
yeah, all power is what are we using it for? Is it, and what you said about the Tao and how there needs to be what you said, like an extender of the Wi-Fi, like
yes, yeah, booster, a representative.
how would people, like, the Tao is such an abstract concept for anyone to grasp in the beginning, and then if you have a person that is embodying it, where it's kind of like, okay, I see this person and I feel something and I don't know what it is and it's changing me, and it's the difference between what now you're explaining as the hippie movement, where okay, we are the Tao, but then what are you doing with it? What it's huge,
yeah,
infinite potential. Let's like you say, it's dispersed. Let's condense it and let's have a person really kind of hold it all together, hold space in their own structure. So then I can see, oh, that's how it's done. Because otherwise it's potential energy in 1,000 different directions. And we chose to have a body, at least in my perspective, we chose to have a body so we can feel, clinging of your fist on wood and feel a little bit of this resistance and play in the sandbox. So let's have some, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, annihilate the ego. And then, oh, well, no, just the ego, just the destiny of the ego is just to surrender. That's all. And then once the ego surrenders, it becomes a neutral observer and quiet. And then the ego becomes rightfully what it was meant to be, an integration for light, a feedback mechanism.
A storyteller.
Yeah, it's fun. Bro, the only reason creation came into existence was for fun and love. It was not for the other shit. That's what people don't understand. Spirituality was meant for love and fun. It wasn't this whole thing about shadow work and suffering. And that's that is kind of perverted thinking from egocentric constructs, right? But it isn't only that. Understand, there are so many life forms, so many matrices. We had so much wars that went down, bro. Like, even from the higher heavens, 12th dimension, and coming down through the stargates and all this stuff sounded like sci-fi, right? But what we don't get is that some of what we call the Anunnaki, some of the Draconians, even some of the Elohim, not all of them were like, some got perverted in their thinking. It's like, I want to do something different. It wasn't necessarily an evil thing. It was just, I want to do something a little different. And they started to kind of rebel against like the natural order, you see? So, I mean, and we tried to help them because that's like family. I mean, like, that's like me having a cousin that's a crackhead. Like, he's a crackhead, he's a rapist, but like, that's my cousin. You see? So some of the Elohim, some of the original primordial races, right, that uphold these sacred teachings and consciousness accretion, what they do is they try to help some of the fallen races, and they tried to mix some of their DNA with theirs, so that, because their DNA was going through a process where it would disintegrate. And if they kept on living a particular way against the natural order, over time, you can blow up and implode into stardust. If you want to look deeper into this, I think it's Keylontic Science, Asha Anadine, Dr. Phil Valentine, Delbert Blair, There's a lot of different teachers that break down just what went down between the wars of the gods. So that also is something that happened too, brother, where there are fallen races that do alter human genetics, but they are good, the angelic, you could say, that were trying to help the fallen races because they saw them as family, but then the fallen races tried to pretend like we'll uphold the laws, right? Pretending, but they had an agenda. You see? So the issue was, then, the human genetic template, it got altered. All right. Initially, animal genetics was never, ever supposed to be a part of the human body. The original human genome was not animal. You see? Because animals, an animal animation, a program, an animation, it's animate, right? So an animal was meant to go through a process of death, right? A human being, under no circumstances, was meant to just die the way like an animal does. It was under no circumstances you were supposed to just stay stuck on your first 3 DNA strands and just in 3D and just die. You were meant to go through the frequency accretion process, which is what I learned in theory from Dr. Phil Valentine. I was one of his students, Asha and Nadine, for people that like her the way she teaches, and a few other schools of thought and scholars that talked about how there are significant ages for the human being that were vital for the activation of DNA strands. So like basically what this means is, brother, when you were in the womb, okay, they say it takes about, 38 to 56 days before the soul incarnates into the fetus. So for the first month or first couple of days or couple of weeks, the fetus just has the consciousness of the mother and father. The soul itself has not incarnated into it. That's when you would see the silver cord, a silver lining cord, and it would make the decision to come in or whatever, So that's why miscarriages take place, because the soul didn't incarnate into there. All right. So what happens is, after about, when the soul incarnates, that soul, remember, you are so big, you can't fit yourself into one body. You can't do it. When you descended down from the higher realms, each time you came down a stargate, you left parts of yourself in those higher realms. So when we talk about many lives you've lived, we're not talking about past and future, all that shit happening at the same time. So you live in simultaneous incarnations in different matrices and different worlds. You could say your future self, and these parts of you actually are aware of you. You may not be aware because we kind of got hijacked anyway, but you may not be aware. But there's over 1,000 plus in simultaneous incarnations and selves at one time, or maybe more, right? So as you came down, you left parts of yourself. So when you descended and now you're in this 3D realm, what was meant to happen was the soul does not fully incarnate when you come out of the mother's womb. They say it took about 44 plus years for the soul to fully incarnate to where the 12 DNA strands would activate. So how is the DNA strands in the brain, in centers of the brain, activated? When more of you, the light essence, is incarnated into it. So that's why the Gnostics say that only a portion of you, your awareness of you, incarnated into the body. You see? So, and the ones that like to manage the human mind to make sure the human mind is in a mental or emotional conflict with the self, all right? What happens? They want you to be somewhat alive enough to just kind of work for them, and, so I could manipulate you on CNN News and all that shit, right? So they make up a lot of shit. Like every generation, it's the end of the world. Why is that? Why every generation? It's the end of the world, another world war, famine. None of it. Look, let me tell you something, bro. These demons that fuck with our minds, they would drop a bomb. And this is what one of my elders told me back when I was like 21. when he was in the military, and he said, look, Mark, they would drop a bomb in the middle of nowhere and put it on camera just to harness your attention. Because that's the only currency, really. Human attention. That's what they feed on, since they've fallen, their genetic templates have been distorted, whether they fell from egocentric ways, not following a natural order, or whether they are a lower race created from other races as a slave race. However it happened, these beings exist. You got hungry ghosts, you got a bunch of different beings that live as vampires. It is what it is, bro. They're all around. Okay. So the thing is, now, you know, the way they cultivate energy is quite different. It's more parasitic. Like Count Dracula, you know, he can't take the sunlight, so he got to drink blood. That's cosmic energy to him. Even with the human trafficking, the adrenochrome thing, all of that. Yeah, it's basically just kind of a big marketplace. You see, like, you know, they have places where it's just a food source. It's nothing personal. So now you see, okay, well, there are beings that don't have that central nervous system and that ability to go through the consciousness accretion process like us, you see, but they figured out ways, like the Homunculi and Full Metal Alchemist and stuff like that. They've figured out ways and abilities and technology to kind of bypass certain laws. It's like, this human body, I can't live underwater, but I could get a scuba diving suit and an oxygen tank, and I could be in a submarine. I could use technology to be in a world I wasn't designed to be in anyway. You see? So that's what we see happening with some of the fallen races, and there's different ones. It isn't only draconians and insectoids, and it's different vampiric races that fight each other for human attention. So this royal family won with this royal family, and then this royal family in India, they will stage some fake train wreck, or, you know, and kill a bunch of people as a ritual for their, you know, it's a big mess. So it's a big trauma here, man. You know, it's still going on, and it's a script. So these beings have a script. When they sit at a council together, the vampire, they sit at a council, they have a script that they go by. Okay? And what is the script? How to harness human attention. It's like script without a harness, Qi, man. You know, that's why it's like, you know, you look back, Tartaria, we did these great things. And then the minute we find out about them, they blow up everything, and then we have to start over again, you know. But they don't care, okay, what you choose to believe in. Whether you decide to be a Christian, a Muslim, play Xbox all day, go to the strip club, go into the strip club, playing Xbox all day. If you still have not gathered your energy and it was dispersed in this life, both of y'all kind of like in the same boat. You know, yeah, one could be worse than the other in terms of virtue. However, the main goal is so that you don't recognize what's being done to you. All right? That's the thing. So, but when you figure it out, especially when you activate that breathing, you figure it out. See, God already has a accretion process in me. I wasn't designed to be no damn slave and food source, man. Look, creation is fun and loving. That other shit with the shadow self and suffering and all of that, man, that's some shit that was planted into you from them. Yeah. You know, the only, suffer, you have to suffer. Well, that's just you burning away them sediments. You know what I mean? You just burn away. So the frequencies of love could finally come in, and God could be like, hey, my child, you're back. You're back again. You know what I mean? So, you know, and they put it in the anime, they put it in movies, they put it, you know, and because they're historians, Marvel Studios, they historians, they don't make up shit from scratch. You know, they don't. Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, there are guardians that uphold laws, you know. So, you know, and again, so I in my life, I sifted through. I've had many teachers. Most of my life has been in a receptive mode, you know, and, you know, from when I starting back from 17, you know, when this Hispanic kid, I was in college, this technical school in West Palm Beach, Florida. And this Hispanic dude, right? This was a little technical school in the ghetto, man. And you're in the little part of West Palm Beach, man. And this Hispanic dude come running in the classroom. I was learning about HVAC and shit. And he printed out a full article on the Illuminati bloodlines, right? This is how it started for me, right? I just turned 17. And when I read that article, he was freaking out. And then I was freaking out, but no one else seemed to care, you know? But, you know, so I was like, what? I knew it. I knew it. And then, then that's what started me, man. And then I tried to go run, tell all my Bahamian friends from the Bahamas. That was like, mind you now, brother, this was back, there was no social media. Okay, this was back when MySpace first came out.
Oh, yeah.
You see? Yeah, so there was no social media. There wasn't much people on it. It wasn't a popular thing. So I started pushing people away, you know, and then I met this elder man. It's a great friend of mine. He passed away in 2017. I owe him a lot, boy. And he took me in, and then that's when, you know, he showed me these David Icke books, all these different scrolls, was God and extraterrestrial and all this stuff. So then I kind of went through that process of, wait a minute, so I'm not. And then I remember that first night I met him, he really effed me up that day. He said, look, bro, you're not the top of the food chain. Yeah, and I didn't really get to the cultivation part of it till years later. So you see all the stuff I'm talking about now, I was more of a scholar trying to figure out what was going on, why was the world this way, why we die, you know, and then eventually I was like, well, okay, but what am I going to do with all this knowledge? You know, you know, like I'm not doing shit with it. So then I realized, okay, boom, you know, the cultivation part. All right, okay, let me get into this. And it's from there, just it keeps growing, brother. You get better and better and better. And it's just, even my Nei Gong, when I sink the Qi and, you know, and emanate the breath, it's nothing like how it was years ago. In the beginning, you don't have Qi, so you got to be patient. And now moving into more higher level techniques and, you know, and being pregnant, you know, I'm pregnant and I can have a baby shower if I want, but no one, you know, that's, I can't go and tell nobody that. Yeah. So it's, yeah, it's a good time, man. And I think that, you know, whoever listens to this, they may appreciate some of the threading and unusual things put together, you know, but yeah.
This is definitely something that really needs distilling into practical terms for spreading out to the people, you know, making gems, making it from pressuring it into a diamond. I have a few more questions if you have time.
Yeah, no problem.
What do you think? What would you give people? Let's say they're listening to this, and what would be some practical tips for staying sane, centered among the crowd, among the mass? You know, illusion in the big cities and crowds and toxic environments and stuff like that.
Yeah, so definitely, well, I do want to say that spiritual cultivation in and of itself, when you get good at it, the body is very resilient to toxicity. So this is why the elites, I hate calling them that, the whatever they are, when they try to vaccinate, they want to, like, notice they have to like triple vaccinate you and all that. Like one don't work. You know, they need to keep shooting you up and then poisoning the food, poisoning the air, putting the vaccine, doing this. Now it's like, but so I'm saying this because that should show, first step, dispel fear. That's the first step. Your body, when you know how to calibrate it, breathe in a specific way, you know how to cleanse it, it literally is so resilient to toxins. Of course, you would like to, you know, monitor where the towers are, right? You know, So, you know, the towers, even if they like down the street, it's not like, you know, once you ground and cultivate, it's not really a big deal. But if you live right next to the tower, then okay, maybe you need to get some orgone crystal or move a, you know, big thing, whatever people make, right? Or move, right? Be careful with, you know, the city is their invention where they like to kind of bring a lot of people together into one space because you could harness a lot of emotional energy. And then you could control the food supply and stuff easier. So to, you know, sustainability is a thing. Although my form of sustainability, you know, I live in Bahamas, you know, we have a backyard, we got land here. I don't want to use my example because, you know, I know how to do big goo fasting good, but one thing that helps me a lot with cleansing was urine therapy. And I only can speak from my personal experience, you know. I don't I mean, you know what urine therapy, you got to know. Yeah. So that helped me a lot. If you don't have a lot of money, you know, because sometimes fruits and stuff could be really expensive if you have a family and you're working and you're paying bills. I found urine therapy to be excellent, superb at cleaning the body, cleaning the colon. Even regardless of your diet, that could be up for debate with you, you know, whoever listening. I know some people say you have to be fruitarian and you need to be clean before you drink it. That's not true. It's not true at all. The more you eat, the more I think you should drink it, to be honest. But yeah. So first thing, dispel fear, understand, get into some. I do recommend learn some energy techniques. Whether you come to me directly, that would be nice, or you go somewhere else. Learn some energy techniques. Read. Gain your wisdom on your biological vehicle. Know what makes it run. It's energy. If you have something, for example, I use urine therapy, you know, and some people may use herbs or, you know, you could do enemas and stuff just so nothing backs up. So you don't have to necessarily be the most perfect breatharian. You can eat, but understand the science of eating. Wait until the meal from yesterday comes out. You see? And use whatever distilled liquids you can use to get it out, breathing techniques, ground to the earth, right? So yeah, dispel fear. When you understand cultivation and love, that optimizes your biological vehicle to be able to contain toxins, to contain nanobots. If they do have that in the air and try to manipulate your thinking, it's not really that effective. All right. We kind of put them up a bit on a pedestal a little too much. Okay. Even though they're very consistent, though, I give them that. You know, it is a war, though. I'm not going to pretend as if there isn't, but it doesn't really, when you know what to do, it's just, you know, it's like a child that can't climb up a ladder, you know, and they just stuck in this realm and they want me to stay stuck in the ditch with them. That's how I see it. And I'm like, no, I ain't staying in that damn bitch. I ain't going, yeah, I ain't doing that. So yeah, you know, learn some energy techniques that read on embryonic breathing, read on spiritual immortality. If you want to reach out to me, I have a really great book list on spiritual cultivation that will really give you the progeny of wisdom. Join a lineage, you know, find a teacher. Oh my Lord, find a teacher, boy. You know, if you're interested in the embryo, pregnancy, spiritual immortality, like I said, the lineage I'm a part of with Grand Master and Master Lee, you know, they do give techniques that have been optimized that are not traditional Buddhist or Taoist, but it's really been optimized, and it's one of the quickest ways. You see, dealing with emerging the Yang Shen, you know, learn how to nurse your pregnancy. Level 1, knowing how to gather the Qi. So, you know, I'm going through the training as well, where I'll at least be able to teach level 1 to prep people for my teacher. Okay. Well, he ain't gonna let no one teach level 5. Yeah, that's oh no. You know what I mean? But level 1 in the sense where what I teach in Nei Gong, you could join my weekend temple and see if it resonates. Or whatever teacher you find. All right. So I do recommend you gotta dispel fear, energy techniques, spiritual cultivation, actually does help to make you resilient to your biological device to be resilient to toxicity. You know, be careful of some of the podcasts, some things on social media about it makes you withdraw love. You know, there's a war between man and woman that's being perpetrated from them. You know, where a man has his place, a man is different than a woman. When a podcast is talking about the nature of woman, they should not try to talk down on women. It just should be so a man can understand women. And it's the same so women can understand men. You see? Because, you know, yeah. So just be careful when you listen to things, have discernment. Don't allow it to like withdraw love from your heart. Because what those egregors and spirits do is they convince you in specific ways to withdraw love. You see? And this can hurt you and your family and friends. Don't make it into a cult where, you know, because your family eating meat or they don't agree with your thing. Stop rebelling against them. They're just concerned for you. Buddha said that your family actually measures your spiritual progress. You see? So, of course, they're not going to agree. Of course, your father can be like, oh, well, did you get a job yet? You know what I mean? Or you taking care of yourself? You know? So try to work around responding with pure humility and love, and understanding that they are stuck in a program. All right. But that does not mean you call them NPCs. Stop saying that. It's not, oh, it's an NPC, it's a non-playing character. No, stop saying that. You was an NPC at one point too. And high-level achievers helped you. You see?
Yeah, I can't stand that lingo when they say like soulless beings. I can't stand the NPC as well, where it's like they came into the world already like that, but it's not like that. They just have a lot of the sediments that you're talking about. They have a lot of addictions,
yes.
they're living in a cloud, in a fog.
And some of them are still actually pretty good people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're just their signal with source is a bit distorted, but you do see the truths in them. You see? And I told this brother, I said, man, your car could break down in the middle of nowhere. And a man that do nothing but watch football and drink beers all day could stop and help you fix your car and get you going. And he had some knowledge you didn't know, and he helped you. He helped you. It's, oh, he's not on my level. Is that don't exist. So dismiss under any circumstances NPCs, soulless beings, because if you say that they soulless, you're saying you soulless because they you. You see? And your subconscious mind only know you. So what you say about others, you're pretty much saying about yourself. You see? So be careful with that. Even when I talk about the Anunnaki, it's business. It's a food source. They got trapped. It's not that they hate me or nothing. You know what I mean? It's nothing personal. So look at it in a way. Your worldview you got to work to gestate and nurture unconditional love. This is so cliche, but unconditional love is not human. The human life now, we saw our ego so densified, we can't have unconditional love. So we have to transcend specific programs to anchor unconditional love. And that don't mean be soft. Oh, the spirituality isn't about this love and light. Well, what else it for? What else it for? Oh, you got to go through the shadow. Like, dude, you're so addicted to your shadow and suffering. Why is that even a badge of honor? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, man, I have to do this and do that. It's just like the same thing growing up where, oh, I'm from the ghetto, man. I could do that. You know, like, it's just let it go. Everything, because your spirit body, your yang shen, is not going to develop and mature if you don't accumulate virtue and love. It's not. So you can stay trapped. So once you got to know how to think first before you even step into deep states of meditation and activate embryonic breathing. Know how to think. That's why I say read, Still take the stuff with a grain of salt, because a lot of them are traditional. When you join a lineage, you know, and whatever your teacher teaching, you listen. However they taught it, do it the way they taught it. If you go learn from another lineage, don't mix the two. Because I teach a lineage in Nei Gong from my Shifu that is, I don't mix that with the lineage I am now. They two separate things. You got to respect the masters that perfected these things. You see? So wherever they get from what I said just now, the main thing is to understand that you've heard this before, but we are living in a day and age now where you're lucky enough that this cultivation knowledge is out to the public. It was kept hidden. This was the main thing that was kept hidden from us. So what do? Take advantage of this life. Take advantage of it and become that caterpillar that will finally be a butterfly, because within the caterpillar is a higher vehicle, the butterfly. But it had to go through the cocoon and be still so that the caterpillar could then, you know, shed its skin. Now, us, we're not exact, because you could actually have two bodies and still be on Earth. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you actually can't leave. Like, even if you have the body developed, you got to accumulate enough virtue for it to even be independent. So you can't just leave when you have it, you know? And it's not astral projection. It's not on this. Astral projection is something different. That's yin shen. That's the underdeveloped subtle body that everyone has. I mean, you could get in a car accident and almost drown, and your yin shen will spawn from your body, and you look back at your body. All right, that's the one that has the sediments that needs to be purified. So everyone has a yin shen. All right, but you need to transform it into a yang shen, which is a cultivated, that matured it and master it. So when I say these things, people automatically think I'm talking about like astral projection. I'm not talking about that. You see, it's you know, from what it's something different. So just like, you know, once they understand that we now are at a point in our lives where the human being is going through an evolutionary process that has been suppressed for quite some time, especially, you know, stepping out of Kali Yuga. You know, we going into a part of the matrix where there's more cosmic energy coming in, and, you know, and this is, I think, a particular time where it's harder to control human beings, you know. So yeah, man, you know, it's not the conventional, you know, go get some canned goods. Yeah, and go in the woods and camp out and be in nature. And I'm gonna say, and this is very unorthodox, nature will not transform you if you have not laid the foundation of prajna wisdom, virtue accumulation, embryonic breathing, body cultivation. You see? So you could be out in the tent in nature all day, much more than me. You know, but you have to accumulate virtue and lay the, and this is why the Daoists, they said that for the Tao, they believed that you had to prep the body, right? You had to, like, for example, when you go into train in NFL or, you know, football, soccer, you know, you have to like train, right? They're not playing the game, right? They train before they even play the game, but they train hard to prep and recondition their physical body. You can't just get off the damn couch and say, okay, I'm a professional football player. You can't do that. And it's the same for meditation. It's the same for seeing the Tao. But by the way, disclaimer, I'm not saying that you can't see the Tao without any prep. Because you may have incarnated primordial spirit. You could have a master in your ancestry, previous lineage, and they can actually emit out transmissions of samadhi states to you to motivate you to keep going. So you notice how I'll say one thing and then the next thing it could happen to someone, but to make it sustainable, you do the body cultivation techniques. Because when that embryonic breath is activated, you could take things into your own accord and gather your energy every day, to the point where you just breathe that way naturally. So every day you're in that state, and it's just building. to the point where you're pregnant, building to the point where it can leave the body, building to the point where it can be independent. Now you have two bodies, you know, and then it just keeps going and going. You know, there's more to it than that, you know. But what I'm saying is, the Daoists saw it that way as well. You had to prep and train. So Shaolin monks and yogis and masters, they treated meditation like it was the Olympics. You see, it wasn't just let me sit and just be and regulate emotional triggers, which is good for relationships, was good, you know, it's a part of it. Vipassana meditation, good, but that's still all elementary. You see, we gotta stand up for this, man. You know, people have to know really what this really is all about. And this is what all religions were teaching when they said to heaven, everlasting life, it's in you. And once you activate that, that's what God meant by just sit and know that you are God. Sit and know that I am God. Be still. You know, so the stillness requires a bit of effort so that the stillness could make sense. Yeah.
I had a question about relationships and why they fail, what we need to bring awareness to. So you cover that already with the podcasts and the differences, but actually the sameness of the men and women. And I also wanted to ask you to close out the talk by giving like a short burst of empowerment, something to kind of spark people to stand up, to take care of themselves. You already also kind of ended that with the cocoon, but if you have anything else on that note, so something for people to believe in themselves, like shoot out fire.
All right. Okay. So yeah. All right. So about the relationship, right? So yeah, sacred unions are not, they're arranged by higher beings. You see, so when we talk about a sacred union, you know, it has, of course, it's some mission that deals with something beyond yourself, right? Because even with the Tao teachings, they say the highest form of virtue is to be selfless, because you actually don't exist. You see, and so when it comes to man and woman, we're very different, man. We're very different. This may not resonate with everyone, but this is what was passed on to me orally by one of my teachers, you know, who was breatharian. And he was telling me that, you know, women were here on the planet first. So it wasn't man, it was woman here first. And he said, you know, the physical realm deals with the feminine. That's why we say Mother Earth. Anything non-physical, right? We deal with a Father God, spirit, you know, hence Shiva Shakti, the Shakti dancing, Shiva being like still, you know. So there's a dynamic where it's one, right? One energy, but it's we have a particular way it moves in man and in woman, you know. Now, if you understood that yoga and internal arts, yoga was actually created by men. You see? Anytime you hear the word man or masculine, it deals with structure, with order, to bring the Shiva-hood, right? Or Shiva, bring the, like if you just having sex with a bunch of women and you bouncing between woman to woman, you moving very chaotically, like you just Shakti, just energy moving, but there's no structure to it. You see? So when you bring the Shiva-hood to it, that's when you can convert that sexual energy, maybe with a tantric lover, even more, maybe with yourself for a self-pregnancy. So, and these masculine and feminine dynamics can be in man or woman. You could have a woman that has more of a masculine, like, you know, presence, and a man that's more feminine. So I talk about the polarity in and of itself. You know, if you ever look at a woman, you know, they're more in doing, you know, they like to do, they like to move, you know. A woman reminds you like, hey, you have a body, let's dance, let's have a good time, you know what I mean, like that. Yeah. And like I said earlier, you know, even if furniture just sitting in the room too long, like after like 2-3 years, you know what, I gotta switch it up. I gotta switch it up. And then she switch up the couch and move this around. And then when you could tell when a woman live in the home, she really decorates, she makes the place like it's really a home. So men kind of deal with the raw materials, we build and destroy, but a woman sustains what he builds. You see, we build and destroy, hence invention. So man as well has more of the capacity for specific transmissions that are beyond this world. Hence a lot of inventors, and stuff are men. I'm not saying only men. I'm not saying that under any circumstances. All right. A woman are much more attached to the earth, you see. So there's this dynamic where, a man, what they mean by when a woman in a relationship, you see, and we talking about the masculine counterpart, right? This could even be, whatever, a masculine counterpart. When the feminine looks at the masculine, when a woman looks at a man, she have to feel like she's looking at the truth about life and body into one being. Like, man, she have to feel like, man, it's just an honor to know you. You see, like that. It's she has to feel that way, because just being associated with you, she feels empowered. And that's what she is committed to. Her feelings of what you emit out, not you. Okay? So her feelings. So there's a particular level of discipline that a man must root himself in divinity, just like a woman, don't get me wrong, okay? But what I'm saying is just when they say a man provides, we've made that into like a survival thing, right? Because of what went down on the war and all that. But when we said a man provides, this is why men created yoga and, and dealing with internal arts. It was very linear. It was very structured. Sit here, breathe this way, do this, do that, so that we can help you to gather your chi so you could see beyond Earth as well.
Beautiful.
Not just astral project, but more than that. Not just bend elements and, and you a woman have all kind of abilities. They're stronger than men. This is a woman's world. It's mostly women here.
Yeah.
But a man is essentially, and then a woman too, though. They're women too. So, but again, it's just sometimes if a woman is very like in her own, what does he mean? It's just a dynamic at play with cultivation. So a man is meant to provide a safe space, especially with the wars and stuff that went down here. The woman had being abused. One good man sending out good transmissions of this type of just knowledge, just truth, just immortality, love, Tao. She could also transcend her emotional mind as well. And if she loves him, she can help him transcend lust. You see? So both of them have obstacles. Both of them. And both of us can drag each other down. You see? So the first step of relationship is to realize that there's a marriage that already exists in you with your own soul, with the laws of life. And there's an ascension consciousness accretion with your soul. And virtue is the law of the energy field of your own soul being trapped in the body and it trying to gather itself to get the hell out. So it don't just stay trapped. Now, that don't mean you can't stay on Earth, but it could be a bit more like willful choice, and you could choose better experiences, and you know what I mean? Like that. There are people doing that now on Earth. Not everyone just comes here unconsciously, but most of us do. All right. So to understand, when I look at a woman, I have to honor the part of her that's eternal. And her with me as well. So woman, matter is infinite, okay? Infinity, which is matter, which means it's forever, but it's always changing into different forms. Masculine is eternal. Infinity, matter, spirit, masculine, eternal. which means it's forever as well, but it never changes. All right. So once we understand the dynamics of play between masculine and feminine, and that there is a consciousness accretion process to honor that soul so that soul can grow, and I can become what's called a sacred attachment, meaning a lover, a beautiful relationship where there's nothing wrong with having a sacred attachment that helps you to gather your own energy so you can be happy and joyous with God. I'm only meant as a man to help you with God. And as a woman, if I'm a man that has fallen, if you have the progenitor wisdom, you help me as well. You see, you help me as well, because man fell too. So we also attached to the earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so now, you know, because man, you know, that's a whole story there. So a sacred union first has to have progenitor wisdom. They have to know what virtue actually means, not just being a good person. And you know, that's like morale, you know, that's low level, like, yeah, that's it. But we talking about to understand the laws. And once you respect those laws, your sex life, you understand you have to manage it, make it tantric, but don't overdo it, because you know your mind has to evolve gather his energy. Stop trying to steal his chi for external validation. So if you're a woman, I understand that you feel liberated and you dressing all, you know, showing off your body on social media. You can do that. But you have to understand that we are generations of unhealed men. You ain't fucking helping us when you do that. You know, it's liberating you while it's colonizing my chi and sending it to you for external validation. I'm not doing this for validation. No, don't say that. Don't say that. All right? So there's nothing wrong with you doing it. But you understand that you are, as a woman, you're very receptive to particular energies. Okay? So what does it mean to love a man? What does it mean to love a woman? That has to first honor, you have to first honor the soul. You see? Yeah. And so, yeah. So that's my 5 cents with the relationships, you know?
Beautiful.
Yeah. You know, whoever that resonate with, you know, and hopefully they understand, because that's what love is not human desire. Human desire is a technology. Love is something that's love gave birth to human desire, but human desire does not give birth to love. Yeah. And yeah, what's the last thing you want me to close out, right?
Yeah, so something like empowering to spark the drive in people to take care of themselves better. And
boy, well, I hope this whole podcast, they
oh yeah,
man. Yeah, it's an unusual one too, because you know it brings the way I will put it together, it brings things that you already know about, but it can give a kind of a deeper light to it, you know. So anyway, I just want to say, so from everything I said, all right, just remember, and this was something that when my elder passed away, it was really difficult for me. He was the first teacher I had that made an impact on me. And, you know, it was back in 2017. His name was Wade Hinsey. And beautiful man. I mean, this dude talked to me. We spoke about every day for like 7 years, man, you know. And the last thing he said to me was, don't stay human. They want you to stay human, but you got to become something much greater than that. And then he passed away. And now today, being all into this cultivation work, I see what he means. You're so much more than that human mind, man. You're so much more than just getting up, going to work, and let's survive, and let me find a partner and mate so I could. No, man. You have it all right there in you. What's inside you is a sleeping giant. That sleeping giant is in slumber, but let me tell you something, boy. He cannot wait for you to awaken. To awaken. Gather more of your light. Get the money. Do what you need to do. But all that shit is only so you could do this.
Yeah.
Only that. And I told a brother the other day that when you have a family, you ain't just providing material. You only get material and shelter so that y'all could focus on what's everlasting. Even the Bible says it. Everything here will perish. Focus on everlasting life. The Tao, the consciousness secretion. You see? So what makes you an actual whole soul is not just having a human body and being able to articulate yourself and all this and that. It's the non-physical virtues that you develop, the character development. That's what makes you a whole person. The non-physical side. All right? So what's important is you understanding what's potential lying in you right now, and you have the cultivation, energy techniques, the support, the internet. You can connect with people like me, connect with people like anyone, you know what I mean, that you look up to, and they will help you. There's a lot of help around you. Don't listen to, you know, all of the other stuff with fear and all of that, because every other year, it's always the end of the world. And they, Anunnaki, look, man, of course this place been hijacked. Expect them to say stuff like that. Expect them to mess with the food and all of this stuff. It's just, that's the enemy. There is an enemy. You're siphoning off your, that's based on their survival, right? They siphon it off the energy. I don't expect them to do nothing else. That's how they cultivate energy, you know? So even take the fear and hate, all that you generate, and transmute it into pure wisdom, so you understand the intricate workings of creation and how everything around you is you. Is you. All right? So let's end it and say that keep going. Don't try to be no orphan and do this in isolation. Don't do that shit. Don't say I'm spiritually and this and that and I can't connect. Yeah, just because you spend a lot of time in isolation should not mean you can't connect to people. Shouldn't mean. And I ain't saying you're hanging with everyone here and there. I'm talking about where you just make a difference in this world. But to make a difference, you got to see reality first, which is love. And all right, I can end it now for real. So remember, when we say the laws of life, the laws of the universe is the original intention you had for creation. It's like when you had a big party, you planned the party by your house, you bought the drinks, you bought the food, you got the DJ. What was the original intention of the party? It was to have a good time. But then you get all these different people, you know, this one, a fight break out, and then you couldn't fathom that all this shit would happen. We just was trying to have a good time. That's a good saying when it comes to original intention of the light, of the absolute, of creation was meant to be fun and loving. And there are beings that uphold the original intention, all right, which is the laws of life. So you only came into this to enjoy yourself. Stop getting so caught up in shadow. Yeah, you're only doing shadow work because you understand it's a temporary thing to burn away sediments and all that, just so you could understand what I'm telling you now. All right. And that is it. I think they had enough on in the podcast. Yeah, man. But bro, you gave me an anime, man. I still ain't remember the name, but type it out to me on Telegram.
I will definitely. Thank you so much for all the beautiful stuff that was said. So ESO's links and services and Telegram group and all things that he provides will be posted in the description of this video. We create peace, health, and abundance for ourselves and everyone we connect to. And until next time. Peace, health, and abundance.
Right. Peace.
Peace, health, and abundance. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe, like, leave a comment below, ask a question, or share your story. Check out my audio courses: Human Design Basics, Intermediate and Advanced, Human Design Projector Masterclass, and Elemental Balancing course. You can listen to the first lesson of each course for free. Once purchased, stream as much as you like and learn at your own pace. Check out the testimonials from happy students. Join the League of Wanderers community. You can join on the weekly community and support calls. You can book one-on-one personal human design reading and coaching calls with me. You can join us on the Insight Timer app for stress release movement classes and Q&A sessions. There is a newsletter you can sign up for, and there are my free ebooks to download. My merch web shop is available if you would like to get my original artwork and designs printed on a variety of high-quality products. You can also contact me for commissions and graphic design work. Last but not least, you can follow me on Instagram. All the mentioned services and offerings can be found on icreatelines.com, and also check out the description of the video for more details. If you have any questions of any kind, if you would like to collaborate, if you want to come on a podcast, or you have suggestions and feedback, don't hesitate to contact me. I wish everyone peace, health, and abundance.